Today I'm going to show you how to make crispy pan-seared salmon. Plus, I've got a delicious lemon garlic butter sauce that complements the fish. It's a restaurant quality meal made at home. I enjoy eating my salmon with the skin on, but my husband Jason prefers it without. For this recipe, I'm going to show you how to prepare and cook the salmon both ways. Let's start with the salmon skin on. I'm gonna take this gorgeous fillet and flip it over. And the scales run down the salmon this way from the head to the tail. So that means you're going to want to remove it going this way. You can either use the spine, the dull part of a knife, held at a 45-degree angle, which you just easily start here, and you start to feel the resistance in the skin, and the scales start to flake off. And be careful, they like to fly, so watch out for your eyes, they might get ya. So just keep running the knife of the spine at a 45-degree angle until all the scales are removed. Alternatively, another method I like to use is a spoon. It does a good job too. So whatever way you prefer. Ooh, this is like a shoulder workout. Okay, now I've removed most of the scales, and just so you know, the scales are actually edible, but I like to remove as much as I can. So it's perfectly safe to eat if you have a couple left on the fish. Okay, now I'm going to cut the salmon into individual fillets. For about a 6-ounce portion, try to go about 2 inches wide or just a little bit bigger. I like to just trim off this part first. And then from here, we're gonna do the 2-inch cuts. So that right here, it's perfect. I like to cut the fillets from the center cut portion of the fish. That way, they cook evenly and at the same time. So I have my 4 fillets, but maybe I'll cut 1 more, and then I'll save this nice tail portion for later. Now we wanna make sure that the surface of the fish on both sides is really dry. This is extremely important because it's gonna determine how crispy the fish is, and for safety, because if there's any moisture left on the surface, it's gonna hit that pan and start to splatter. So we wanna be really careful. Now I season both sides of the salmon with salt and pepper. Typically I wait to add the salt till right before I'm about to fry the fish, but you could always dry off the surface right before if you do it a little bit in advance. Okay, these look good. Just transfer them to a clean plate. Now I'm going to show you how to remove the skin. Okay, so the key to this is that you want the fillet as close to the edge of the cutting board as possible, so that it's easy for you to move your hand down the length of the salmon. So I start from the tail end, which is the shorter end, and I just cut a little piece off. And you want to cut at a downward angle so you don't cut into that good flesh. And just work slowly, but see how the knife is very close to the edge of the board, so it's easy to just do little sawing motions and then just hold on to that edge of the skin as a little grip for yourself. And we want to try to get the salmon off in one piece. Just use a really sharp knife. I like to use a boning knife because it's a little bit flexible, but you could use a chef's knife as well. So I'm pulling the skin a little bit taut while I move the skin down. And if it gets slippery, you could also use some paper towels. There you go. See, not too much flesh left on the skin. And then I also like to check for any pin bones that might be still attached to the flesh. You could use just some needle nose pliers to pluck them out if you feel for any, but I don't, so it looks good. And then we're gonna cut this into fillets. So I just trim the edge right here, so we have nice even-sized fillets. And then again, about a little bit bigger than 2 inches for a 6-ounce portion. So I got 5 pieces out of this, and I'll save this again for later. So again, make sure that the surface is nice and dry so that it gets crispy right away when it hits that hot pan. And season the fillets with salt and pepper. And I usually wait to add the salt because it's gonna start to draw out moisture to the surface, but if you end up salting it a little bit early, just pat it with a little bit of paper towel right before frying. If you're lucky enough to buy fillets that are already cleaned and cut into individual portions, wait about 10 minutes before you fry them, because if you add really cold salmon to the hot pan, it's gonna stick. Now that these are ready, let's go fry them. My pan of choice to use is stainless steel because it distributes the heat evenly and quickly, which prevents hot spots and sticking. The thing about it is that the surface is really porous, so when it's heated, it starts to shrink. So you want to heat the pan first and then add the oil. The oil that I'm going to use is a high smoke point oil. It should be 375 degrees and above, which is going to give you a buffer when pan frying. We're going to cook the fish around 350 degrees. I'm going to use a pure olive oil, but light olive oil, avocado, or vegetable oil works well too. Heat a 12-inch stainless steel, cast iron, or non-stick pan over medium heat until hot, about 2 minutes. Add the olive oil, then turn the heat to medium-high. Once the oil begins to shimmer, about 1 to 2 minutes, carefully add the salmon, skin side down, one at a time. This allows it to fry in the oil longer, which ensures an extremely crisp layer. Using the back of a spatula, immediately press the fish down into the pan for about 10 seconds. This will help reduce buckling of the skin. Add the remaining fillets to the pan, pressing each one down before adding the next piece. Reduce the heat to medium. Cook the salmon, occasionally pressing down on the flesh until the skin is brown and crispy and easily releases from the pan, about 5 to 6 minutes. The salmon will be about 75 to 80% cooked through. Use tongs to carefully flip the salmon over. Gently press the surface to make direct contact with the pan. Do not move the fillets. Cook until the surface is golden brown, the edges are opaque, and the center is slightly translucent, about 1 to 2 minutes. Ooh, the skin looks nice and crispy. We're just gonna transfer it to a paper towel lined plate to drain. And because we spent so much time creating this beautiful crunchy skin, I like to serve it proudly with the skin facing up, and that way when we add the sauce later, it doesn't get soggy. Now I'm going to show you how to cook the fish without the skin. Heat a 12-inch stainless steel, cast iron, or non-stick pan over medium heat until hot, about 2 minutes. Add the olive oil, then turn the heat to medium-high. Once the oil begins to shimmer, about 1 to 2 minutes, carefully add the salmon one at a time, flesh side down. Using the back of a spatula, immediately press the fish down into the pan for about 10 seconds. Add the remaining fillets to the pan, pressing each one down before adding the next piece. Reduce the heat to medium. Cook the salmon, occasionally pressing down on the flesh until the surface is golden brown, crispy, and easily releases from the pan, about 4 to 5 minutes. Use tongs to carefully flip the salmon over. Gently press the surface to make direct contact with the pan and do not move the fillets. Cook until the edges are opaque and the center is slightly translucent, about 1 to 2 minutes. The salmon is ready when the internal temperature reaches 120 for medium rare and 130 for medium. So let's take a check. This looks good. Going to transfer them to a paper towel to drain. But there's so much wonderful fond from the proteins and also the fat drippings from the salmon that we're gonna make a lemon garlic butter sauce in the same pan. Heat the same pan used to cook the salmon over medium heat. Add 1 tablespoon minced garlic and 1 teaspoon lemon zest. Sauté for 30 seconds until fragrant. Add a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. Stir and cook for 1 minute. Turn off the heat. Whisk in 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter until a lightly thickened emulsion is formed. Add the salmon back to the pan and garnish with dill leaves, parsley, and drizzle with lemon garlic sauce. Wow, this looks so good. Now I like to add some lemon wedges to serve on the side. Makes for a really pretty presentation. To complete this meal, I'd serve this with this tasty side dish right here. I hope you enjoyed learning the science behind pan-seared salmon, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up. It means a lot when you do. See you in the next video.